Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Quickenar, the most important document you will ever write. So excited to be sharing this important information with you today. My name is Susan Snozzy, and I am National Director for Resource Development Learning Initiatives, which means that I get to spend my time doing things like this, helping local clubs to try to gain new skills and ideas to be more successful at raising money. I'm thrilled that you're all here today, and I hope that you'll find this helpful. At the close of the webinar, I will list all of my contact information, and I'm happy to continue this conversation with you offline. But if you have questions during the webinar, please feel free to type them in the questions pane, and as there is time during the webinar, I will answer them for you. So the goal of these Quickenars is to have a quick session where you can get some information that you can immediately put to use in your club. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So the most important document that you will ever write is your case for support. What is a case for support? Well, the Association of Fundraising Professionals defines the case for support as the reasons why an organization both needs and merits philanthropic support. Essentially, you're creating an argument for why the club is necessary, and because of that need, why your club is worthy of a donor's consideration. There are two kinds of support: an internal case for support, which is much more extensive, and the external case for support. And today we're just going to discuss the external case for support. So as you would assume by the names, the internal case for support is used within your club by leadership, board members, etc. And the external case for support, well, that's for just about anybody. So why do you need a case for support? The case for support should be your go-to document for planning, resource development, training, and marketing. You'll be able to pull the language from your case for support across all of your messaging so that you're always setting forth the same messages. You know that people take repeated exposures to a message before it really sinks in. That's why we have to see 50 different commercials every time the McRib comes back, because McDonald's knows that it takes a while for it to sink in. That's why you want to keep using that same messaging over and over and over again so people start to get it. We know that one of the big problems that our clubs face is that people don't understand the difference between us and other youth-serving organizations. Just yesterday at the grocery store, someone asked me what I did, and when I told him, he said, "So do you have a big brother or a big sister?" It's like, well, that's a different organization. He needs to hear our case for support. So the case communicates, most of all, why donors should make a gift to your club. A little bit about the case for support. The Corporation for National and Community Service says, a case for support is quite simply the most important document your organization will ever write. And despite this, many clubs don't have a case for support. When I first started working at BGCA and was working on some trainings around the case for support, I started calling clubs that I had worked with and said, "Hey, do you have a case for support I could see?" And every single one either said, "We don't have one," or "We wouldn't be comfortable sharing it with others because we don't think it's very good." So let's get talking about what makes a good case for support and how to write a good case for support. First, it shouldn't exceed more than one double-typed page, double-spaced typed, double-sided page. So you want it to be short enough that it's usable, that people will read it. You want to be very specific to your community and your club. So instead of using national statistics, you would use local statistics. You want to focus on critical needs in your community. For example, we've got a lot of communities across the country where education's going pretty well. Kids are graduating at a pretty high rate. I would focus more on other community needs, whether they're crime or youth engagement, instead of focusing on academics in that particular community. You want to be sure to share your club's program outcomes. You want to be outcomes-based. Use that NYOI data. Use the data that you're gathering in your club to create a real argument for the impact of your club. You'll center on making a difference in your community. And don't forget to ask for the donor support explicitly. So yes, you are making a good case for why you should be supported, but be explicit in asking. So here are the sections of the case for support. There's a handout you'll be able to download after the session that has this information on it as well, but I want to talk through so you kind of know what you're looking at. The first section is just, who are you? So this is your club's mission, your vision. Here you might explain how many club site locations they are, membership statistics like how many kids you serve, percentage who are on free and reduced, percentage of girls versus boys, ethnic and racial background, etc., and average daily attendance. Even as you are listing those, be careful of couching anything in the case for support in too much internal jargon. For example, no one knows what ADA is, but when we say 500 kids come through our doors each day, we know what that means. I've pulled some examples of clubs that have done a really good job of using the concepts that we're talking about in this Quickenar. So this is the Lawrence Boys and Girls Clubs, and you can see this is where they explain a little bit about the club. So this is where they're explaining their club site and membership statistics. So this is a nice way to explain what the club does, and they've made it really relevant to the audience. It's very localized. Next, focus on your community's urgent needs. You'll use BGCA's impact areas, this being the year of the teens. Maybe you'll talk about teens in there a little bit too. So this could be academic success. What's your graduation rate? College attendance in the community. Character and citizenship. Is there a high crime rate? A lot of gangs? Problems with pregnancy or drug use? Are there health problems facing your community? Childhood obesity, hunger. Whichever are specific to your community and will be persuasive to your donors. Here's an example of a club who's done a great job of this as well. So they've used juvenile crime as a particular key point that they're going to discuss in their community. This was a club who had trouble finding great localized statistics, and so they focused on national statistics. If you can't find any local stats, state stats can be good, regional stats, and certainly you can fall back on local statistics too. You can see that this is a very well-written argument for why the club is meeting urgent needs. So you've got who you are, you've got some stuff about your community and what your community needs. Now you're focusing on the return on investment for the donor. What is the donor going to get by making a gift to you? You'll explain your programs. You'll share some outcomes data. You'll tell stories about the kids because you don't want this to just be data, 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 data. One piece of data is a story about a kid who's really been affected by your club. That's a different kind of evidence, and it's a kind of evidence people will remember after they read your case. You might offer testimonials from parents. Above all, in this section, don't share what you do. We have a hot meals program. Share what you achieve. We served 50,000 meals last year. Don't share what you do. We have an athletics program. Share what you achieve. Our kids are 50% more likely to be physically fit than their counterparts. So you're really showing the return on investment, the impact of what you do at the club. Here's an example of a club who did this on their website. So they have an unbeatable return on investment. They cite a few statistics that help to show the impact of what they're doing. If I'm a donor, I can easily see that my investment helps make things like this happen. Pretty simple. Next, you want to ask for consideration, seek unrestricted operating support, ask for support of programs like these. That way, if you focused on your Passport to Manhood program, the money doesn't have to be earmarked only to Passport to Manhood. And offer campaign details. Is it your annual campaign? Is it a comprehensive campaign, etc.? So this is the Boys and Girls Clubs of Chaffee County, who did a great job with the Ask section of their case for support. This will be included in the downloads afterwards, so you can give this a little bit more of a careful read. So you've got this case for support. What are you supposed to do with it? Everything. You can use your case for support to help provide clarity for anyone involved in your campaign, whether they're a board member, a volunteer, a parent, a solicitor, or a donor. You can use what you bring out in your case for support to create solicitation talking points. And if you have board members who are out doing asks, it's really helpful for you to be able to hand this kind of information to them to make the solicitation more comfortable. So this creates talking points. This is also the language that should be the foundation for any materials that you're using to solicit gifts, solicitation materials such as brochures, as well as direct mail language. You've taken the time to write that case for support. Now you should be able to just keep pulling from it and keep pulling from it. It's your reference document. You can also use your case for support to develop an elevator speech. A great exercise in a board meeting would be to hand the case for support out to everyone and have each board member develop their own elevator speech. So it's in their own language, it's something that they're comfortable and familiar with, but it's based upon a mutually agreed upon case. Your case for support can be an executive summary. Sometimes you'll call people and they'll say, could I just see the white paper? Or when you're leaving a meeting, is there something I could look at? You can use your executive summary as that leave behind piece. Sorry, I said executive summary, but I meant case for support. The case for support isn't just for resource development. It's also a communications tool, a media and marketing tool. For example, you can use it on your web page. You can put it in press packets. It's a great training tool. You should give your case for support to every new member of your club, whether they're staff or board. That helps them to understand the rationale for the club, the reason people invest in the club, why the club is really so important. It's also a planning tool because it helps you to see what you're doing, what needs you're addressing, etc. Certainly it's a board tool, and it's an inspirational tool. Wait, what? An inspirational tool? Yes, absolutely being rational and logical is really important. But if we want to get a gift, we also need to engage our donors emotionally. So a good case statement is logical, but a great case statement will create passion, will incite emotion, will bring tears to our eyes, or make us feel warm and happy. Donors give out of emotion and justify the gift with logic. Different donors have different motivations, and we want to be sure that our case for support appeals to all kinds of donors. So what I mean when I'm saying inspirational, imagine these historical, motivational, inspirational words that have stuck with America since the moment they were spoken. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. Now that stirs emotion, right? Well, what if instead Dr. King had said, I have a strategic plan. Too often, that's what we're doing when we're creating cases for support and fundraising documents. It's all too wordy and heady and intellectual. The best fundraising documents sound like someone is just talking. And so, if you had the chance to talk about your club, you had to use a little format, what would you say? Ted Bailey, The Fundraiser's Guide to Successful Campaigns, says, the case for fundraising should aim high. It should provide perspective, arouse a sense of history and continuity, convey a feeling of importance, relevance, and urgency, and have whatever stuff is needed to warm the heart and stir the mind. So take a look over your case for support. There's an assessment you can use that you'll be able to download after the webinar that'll help you to tell whether you have managed to get all of the right stuff in there. There are a couple of other tools I thought you might be interested in learning about that you could include in your case for support when you're working on the ROI section. These are both available on bgca.net and have been provided by our planning and measurement team. A recent study found that every $1 invested in Boys and Girls Clubs returns $9.60 in current and future earnings and cost savings to the community. This is good grades, reduced alcohol, and use of their parents' earnings. These kinds of statistics, like are shown here and are available on .net, could be a great way to show that ROI. You invest $1, the community gets $9.60 back. And $9.60 in terms of saved lives. That's pretty great. So, I have some resources that you can download at the close of the webinar. They include a case for support self-assessment that you could administer on your case for support to see if it's really doing everything you want it to. A document called Understanding Statistics and Data, an example case for support from which you are welcome to pull as much as you'd like, a document called Preparing a Case Statement that just walks through those different steps that we just talked about, and then a PDF of these PowerPoint slides. Hopefully with that, you'll have everything that you need to write a great case statement. Once your great case statement is written, though, don't just leave it on your computer. Start using it for all of your communication, your training, interactions with the public, interactions with board members, anywhere and everywhere that you can. Then you'll start to have that consistent message that helps people to know why they should invest in your club. That is the conclusion of my prepared comments. At this point, I'd like to see if there are any questions. If so, please feel free to just type them there in the questions pane. Seeing no questions, I will provide you my contact information. Please feel free to get a hold of me anytime with questions about your case for support. If you'd like to run your case for support by me, I'd be happy to look at it. Your Director of Organizational Development would also be happy to help you with that. At this point, you are welcome to download the documents that are listed over on the right-hand side of your screen. And I thank you so much for joining me for today's Quickenar and hope to see you in a couple weeks for our next one. Thank you so much and good luck with your case for support.